Before Hollywood gave us muscle-bound superheroes and CGI-powered stunts, there were real men. Men who didn't need capes, didn't need billion-dollar budgets, and didn't need to fake being tough. They weren't just playing war heroes. They were war heroes. They weren't trying to look dangerous. They were dangerous. These were men forged by real combat, real prisons, real pain, and somehow they still became the biggest stars of their time. This is not your average list. These are the top 5 toughest actors in Hollywood history. No fluff, no filters, just hard facts, hard lives, and harder fists. Number 1. Audie Murphy, the warrior who became a star before Audie Murphy ever stepped foot on a Hollywood set. He was already a living legend. Not in the tabloids, not on the red carpet, but on the blood-soaked battlefields of World War II. At just 19 years old, he became the most decorated American soldier of the entire war. He killed over 240 enemy soldiers, was wounded 3 times, and earned every combat award for valor the U.S. Army had to offer, including the Medal of Honor. One of his most jaw-dropping feats? Holding off a German company alone for an hour, then leading a counterattack while wounded and out of ammo. When he finally came home, traumatized and suffering from what we now call PTSD, Hollywood came knocking. Why? Because no one could fake what Audie Murphy had lived through. He wasn't playing a hero on screen, he was one. He went on to star in more than 40 films, often portraying cowboys, gunslingers, and yes, soldiers. His performances were cold, stoic, raw because they weren't performances. That haunted look in his eyes? That wasn't acting. That was the look of a man who'd seen death and lived to tell the tale. Audie never glorified war. In fact, he spent his later years raising awareness about veterans' mental health. But when it came to toughness, mental, physical, emotional, nobody, and I mean nobody, comes close. Number 2. Charles Bronson, the silent enforcer. Next up is the man who turned silence into a weapon. A man whose stare could stop time and whose fists felt like bricks. Charles Bronson didn't just play tough, he embodied it. Born into a coal mining family of 15 children, Bronson's childhood was a lesson in survival. He worked in the mines as a teenager, breathing in coal dust while hauling rock for pennies. Then came World War II. Bronson served in the Air Force as a B-29 gunner, flying dangerous missions over Japan. When he came back, he didn't smile much. And he didn't talk unless he had something to say. On screen, he became the face of vengeance. In Death Wish, he played a man pushed to the edge, and the audience bought every second of it because they knew Bronson didn't need to fake rage. It lived under his skin. You could see it simmering behind every glare, every slow, deliberate line of dialogue. What made Bronson terrifying wasn't just the violence, it was the calm before it. The icy silence, the tension. That look? You never questioned whether Charles Bronson could hurt someone. You only wondered when. In real life, Bronson wasn't a Hollywood insider. He stayed away from premieres, lived modestly, didn't care for celebrity status. Why? Because fame didn't mean strength. And Bronson didn't need a spotlight to feel powerful. Number 3. Lee Marvin, the Marine with a scarred soul. If toughness had a voice, it would sound like Lee Marvin. Gravelly, brutal, honest. Lee wasn't just playing ex-cons, hitmen, and war vets, he was one. Before the fame, Marvin was a real-life Marine. He fought in the Pacific during World War II, survived the Battle of Saipan, and caught machine gun fire in the back. He nearly died on that beach. Spent months recovering, got a medical discharge, but he carried the war in his bones for the rest of his life. When Lee Marvin stepped onto a movie set, he brought that battlefield with him. His roles in The Dirty Dozen, Point Blank, and Hell in the Pacific weren't fiction, they were therapy. They were exorcisms. That dead-eyed stare? That swaggering menace? That wasn't method acting. That was trauma. That was memory. He was a drinker, a brawler, a man who hated the Hollywood machine but loved the characters it let him unleash. He once said, "You can't be as tough as you look in the movies unless you've been through real stuff." Lee had, and it showed. Number 4. Steve McQueen, the cool king who ran from demons. He was the king of cool. The guy every man wanted to be and every woman wanted to tame. But Steve McQueen's charm wasn't surface level, it was built on pain, rebellion, and a raw need for control. McQueen grew up in reform schools, got into street fights, slept on the streets. He was a thief, a runaway, a kid constantly at war with authority. Then he joined the Marines. Not out of patriotism, but survival. There, he found discipline, barely. He got demoted 7 times. Spent 41 days in the brig. But he finished his service and he never forgot the fight. Hollywood came calling in the 60s and McQueen brought that rebel spirit to every role. In Bullet, The Great Escape, The Getaway, he was the outlaw, the loner, the man who couldn't be broken. His acting was cool, yes, but it was also dangerous. Calculated. Defiant. Off-screen, he raced motorcycles, drove fast cars, trained in martial arts with Bruce Lee. He demanded his own stunts. Why? Because McQueen didn't trust anyone but himself. He said, "I live for myself, and I answer to nobody." And when cancer came for him, he fought it the same way he fought everything head-on, with grit. Steve McQueen never played tough. He was tough. The kind of tough you earn by scraping through life and refusing to apologize for who you are. Number 5. James Coburn, the sharpshooting gentleman with steel in his bones. James Coburn may have looked smooth and suave, but make no mistake, beneath that easy grin was a man carved out of granite. He served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, but unlike some of the others on this list, his toughness wasn't built on the battlefield, it was built in his bones. Literally. Coburn suffered from rheumatoid arthritis so severe it twisted his body and nearly ended his career. But instead of bowing out, he fought through the pain for decades. He kept acting, kept showing up, kept delivering. What made Coburn special was that he didn't need to raise his voice to be intimidating. One look, one laugh, one well-timed line, and you felt the danger. He was the master of controlled energy, the man who could stand still and still steal the entire scene. In The Magnificent Seven, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and Hard Times, he brought a quiet fury that felt more real than any explosion. He was like a coiled snake, calm until the strike. Bruce Lee called Coburn one of his closest friends and students. They trained together, studied philosophy, and pushed each other. That's how respected Coburn was. Not just in Hollywood, but among real warriors. When he finally won his Oscar in 1999, it wasn't a comeback. It was a reward for decades of being the rock-solid spine of every film he touched.